Funeral services will be held Friday for the late Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez. He passed away Tuesday afternoon following a nearly 2-year battle with cancer. The country will observe 7 days of mourning, and elections to choose a new leader will be held within 30 days. In the meantime, Vice President Nicolas Maduro will assume the role of interim president.
It is now time to avoid any more bloodshed. It is now time to reflect. New situations will come, and the country has to make a definitive move toward a better destiny.
He was elected president in 1998, declaring that the way to end poverty was to give power to the poor.
The fundamental objective of the revolution is life and happiness for all the people.
The world has seen few more charismatic leaders than Hugo Chavez, loved and loathed, it seemed, in equal measure, and with a taste for the dramatic and the controversial. A former paratrooper, he entered politics to combat what he saw as corruption, but an attempted coup saw him jailed. In 1998, he did sweep into power, promising social revolution using Venezuela's vast oil wealth to tackle poverty.
Yesterday, the devil came here.
It was his attacks on the United States that earned a global audience, in particular on President George W. Bush, that were more personal.
In my bad English, you are a donkey, Mr. Danger. You are a donkey.
Some of those he chose to meet further antagonized Washington, his backing for Iran's nuclear program among them. He allied himself closely with the Cuban leader Fidel Castro, and even the UK wasn't safe from his outbursts, using his weekly TV show to call for the Falklands to be handed over to Argentina.
His supporters had hoped his return to Venezuela meant he was making a recovery, but the journey back to his country was to be President Hugo Chavez's last.
We have just received some extremely tragic information for the Venezuelan people at 4:25 this afternoon. On today, the 5th of March, the President Commander Hugo Chavez died.
Earlier in the day, Vice President Maduro had gone on television to announce the expulsion of a US diplomat from Venezuela. He also accused what he called the president's historic enemies of a conspiracy to give Chavez cancer. Chavez's defeated rival in last year's presidential elections put aside his differences and paid tribute.
President Hugo Chavez was my opponent, but not my enemy. We had disagreements which were well known, but we must separate men from their ideas and their actions. At this time, we must all unite.
The opposition had been angered by Chavez's absence from public life and had called on him to step aside and an interim president be appointed. President Chavez hadn't been seen in public since leaving for Cuba for cancer treatment last year. He returned to Venezuela 2 weeks ago and checked into military hospital. The Venezuelan constitution stipulates that elections must now be held within 30 days.
Tributes from across Latin America were swift in coming.
He fought for his country, for the great nation like Simón Bolívar, a friend who gave his entire life for the liberation of the Venezuelan people, the people of Latin America.
I'd like to express our profound condolences and tell the Venezuelan people that after a hard and difficult fight for his life, President Chavez is finally resting in peace.
Today, as always, we must recognize that he was a great leader, an irreparable loss, and above all, a friend of Brazil, a friend of the Brazilian people.
Queremos expresar nuestro profundo pésame y nuestro profundo dolor.
We'd like to express our profound grief and pain for our kindred people in Venezuela.
Queremos decirles
We'd like to say to the family of Hugo Chavez that we want to give them a strong hug.
Darles un fuerte abrazo, nuestra solidaridad.
A la salud. No es solo eso.
The impact of Hugo Chavez's death is hitting particularly hard in Cuba, Venezuela's closest ally. An official statement said President Chavez had stood by Fidel Castro like a true son. The Argentine president, Cristina Fernández de Kirchner, said she'd cancelled all her appointments after hearing the news of the death of her friend and ally. She's declared 3 days of national mourning in Argentina. A contrasting perspective came from Washington. Hugo Chavez crusaded against US influence. In a statement, President Obama was already looking to the future. He said, as Venezuela begins a new chapter in its history, the United States remains committed to policies that promote democratic principles, the rule of law, and respect for human rights. The British Foreign Secretary, William Hague, has also issued a statement saying, as President of Venezuela for 14 years, he has left a lasting impression on the country and more widely. I would like to offer my condolences to his family and to the Venezuelan people at this time.
News of the death of Hugo Chavez broke during a press conference at the UN in New York. There was an immediate reaction from Ban Ki-moon.
As a president of Venezuela, he has been making his own contributions to his own country's development. At the same time, as a Secretary General, while I will be able to issue a more formal statement, I'd like to convey my deepest condolence to the families and people and government of Venezuela on the loss of President Chavez.
I think it's a tragedy. He was, I think, a great politician for his country, for Latin America and for the world. And of course, he played a very important role in the development of relations between Venezuela and Russia. So we feel very badly about it. Thank you very much.
Charismatic, tireless, a man of the people. That's the image Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez always tried to project. For 14 years, the omnipresent and populist leader dominated politics and nearly all aspects of daily life, with his special brand of socialist-inspired politics fueled by oil profits.
Chavez, who cared about the people and what happens to us, he spoke to us, he was one of us.
Chavez had a larger-than-life persona and a highly centralized government, ensuring no one in his own party would ever become a rival. Now Venezuelans must contemplate the unthinkable, life without him. Before he died, Chavez chose his vice president, Nicolás Maduro, to carry on his so-called Bolivarian revolution. The 50-year-old former bus driver and trade unionist met and became close to Chavez while they were both in prison. He was a longtime member of the president's inner circle. But while Chavez was known for his fiery rhetoric and bold policy moves, Maduro is considered to be soft-spoken and more pragmatic. With a special election now on the horizon, many Chavez supporters vowed to support him.